Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I am making my ham hocks and bean soup. So this is a recipe that I have been making for a really long time. It's one that I don't even have written down, and I have lots of people who ask me all the time how I make it. So I thought that I would put together a video so that those that want to know how I make this soup can see it. And I will do my best to write down all the ingredients as I go, just so that I can pop some kind of a recipe down below. So I find this soup is really something that's kind of to your taste, something that you make based on what you like. So there's just some pretty basic ingredients that you'll need, and then you're going to season and spice based on your own personal taste. So some of the things that you are going to need are obviously a ham, and I use a giant pot, like a medium-sized stock pot when I make this soup. So I take about a quarter of a whole ham, and then you're gonna need some ham hocks or shanks or something, and I'm probably only gonna use about 4 of these. But I always get a couple extra just in case once I get everything in the pot it looks like it needs something more. I can add 1 or 2 more. And the nice thing about these is I can freeze them and save them for the next time that I make this soup. So you'll also need some garlic, onion, celery, carrots, and some Great Northern or white beans. So these are 32-ounce bags, and I can use either 2 to 3 bags of these depending on how much soup I'm making. So my husband likes a lot of beans in our soup, so after I put these in, if I still feel like I need more, I can either add another half a bag or a whole bag. Again, it just kind of is whatever your preference is. And then I use 2 chicken broths, and these are the 48-ounce containers. So, and I use 2, sometimes 3 of these, again, depending on how much soup I am making, but I also add water. So I'll add anywhere from, 8 to, 10 cups of water after I add these in. And then some of the seasonings that I use are chicken bouillon cubes, some bay leaves, some celery seed. Yes, we are adding celery, but I just think this adds a little additional flavor to the soup. Some Italian seasoning, and mainly just because I like the seasons that are used in Italian seasoning. So you could, just pick 1 or 2 of your favorite seasonings out of here, oregano or thyme, basil, rosemary. You could just add a couple of things from this if you wanted to, instead of using just Italian seasoning. And then of course salt and pepper. Okay, so this is my stock pot, and so as you can see, this is a huge stock pot. So I'll put my tea kettle next to it. Yeah, it's huge. So this is about, like I said, a medium-sized stock pot. And so I have rinsed my bags of beans, so taken them out, rinsed them, all that, and put them into the pot. And I added my 2 boxes of chicken stock, and then I added 24 cups of water. So that's just because I'm using a huge pot. So when I'm doing my beans, because you're going to start your beans off first, there's probably 4 or 5 inches above where the beans are. They're covered in about 4 or 5 inches of water. So I try to add quite a bit of water, because after they've had a chance to soak, I'm just going to go ahead and start adding in all of my other ingredients. So again, just rinse your beans, throw them in your pot, add your chicken stock and your water, and then you're going to turn your pot on high and put the lid on. Once it starts to boil, and you want a good rolling boil, you're going to turn it off, and then you're going to let the beans sit from anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours, especially if you're using fresh beans. I've never used canned beans, so I'm not sure how that would probably work out. You probably wouldn't need to soak them at all, obviously. But I do recommend the bag dried beans. I think the flavor is just so much better. So yeah, so we're just gonna let this sit for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then we'll start adding in everything else. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours, and if you remember when I first put this in and the beans in, you couldn't even see the beans. There was probably about 4 or 5 inches of liquid on top of the beans. Since they've boiled and soaked, they have about doubled in size almost. So now you can clearly see them. There's about 1.5 inches to 1 inch of water on top of them. And then after I had brought everything to a boil, I did decide that it wasn't quite enough beans for my husband's liking. So I do have these, small 16-ounce bags as well. So I just dumped another one of those in there. And in the meantime, I have gone ahead and turned the stove back on to high. And I have cut up all of the vegetables and that ham that I had. So I just, made sure that everything was kind of, bite-sized pieces. So each one of these bowls is about a cup. I want to say 1.5 cups to 2 cups. So, whatever your liking is for vegetables. And the nice thing about this recipe is you can do more veggies and less meat. So yeah, same thing with the celery. So there's about 1.5 cups to 2 cups in each of those, and there's probably, this is just 1 onion, so that medium-sized onion, and this is that ham. So the ham was already pre-sliced. I just cut it down into even smaller, bite-sized pieces. So this is the first time I've tried this with a pre-sliced ham. Usually I just do like 1/4 of a whole ham and then just cut it myself. But I wanted to see if this would save me some time. I'm just worried that these are pretty thin slices, so I'm just worried that maybe it's gonna break down and disintegrate once everything starts cooking, but we'll see. So I am going to add an additional 48-ounce container of chicken stock to this because, as you can see, there is not much liquid left with the beans, and once I start adding everything else, that liquid is going to quickly diminish. So I'm going to go ahead and do that really quick. So that has added, there's probably another 2 or 3 inches on top of there now. So I'm just going to keep an eye on the liquid level. So if it starts to get to the point where there is less liquid than what there is now, I'm going to add more. I probably won't add any more chicken stock. It'll probably just be water to the pot. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding in all of my vegetables. I have an onion peel in there. I'm just going to give that a quick stir. And just from looking at this, I think I'm going to go ahead and just add another 4 cups of water, because once I start to put in the Ham Hocks, I think it's going to need more water. Okay, so I've added that water in, and then I'm going to go ahead and add in my Ham Hocks. So I know that these probably look really nasty to some people, but these have so much flavor. These are what give the soup most of its flavor. So you don't have to eat them. if you don't want to, but you know, everything that's in here is really good. You've got like the bone and extra meat and stuff like that. So if they gross you out, just use them for the meat or for the flavor and then take them out. But my husband really likes them, so. Alright, so I'm just gonna add the 4 in. I think that that is going to be quite enough. And I'm gonna go ahead and give it a good stir. And then I'm going to start adding some of the seasoning in. So I'm going to do salt and pepper, obviously. And then I'm going to add in a lot of the bay leaves and celery salt or celery seed and whatnot. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add some of my Italian seasoning. And again, you can just season this to however you like. So I don't really have exact measurements on this, and this is why I've never been able to give anybody the recipe. And then I'm going to add, excuse the dog woofing, some of the celery seed in. And since this is such a large pot of soup, I'm going to add in 4 bay leaves. Just remember, don't eat the bay leaves. They need to come out before you serve. If I can get the bay leaves out of the jar. And then the last thing that I'm going to add, and I did add a bouillon cube earlier when I was boiling the beans just to kind of add a little bit of flavor. So I'm just going to put another one in. Okay. Make sure that's right on the fire. So I just stuck the lid back on. I'm going to wait until it comes up to a rolling boil, and once it's up on a rolling boil, I'm going to turn it down to medium to lowish heat. You want it to kind of simmer but not be like a full boil. And then just keep an eye on the liquid level. You may need to add liquid, especially since those beans are probably going to expand just a bit more. So just keep an eye on those 2 things. And that's pretty much it. So once everything has cooked up, I'll show you a couple of pictures of that. And if I add anything else, I'll let it know. I'll add it on after this. Okay guys, so I started all of this about 10 o'clock this morning, and it's now 4:18. So this has been cooking for almost, 6 hours or so, just kind of on a simmer. But this is what it's kind of starting to look like. My husband will be home around 5 or so, so then we will probably eat at that point. But this is what it looks like, and it tastes really great. Smelling really good. The only thing that I did add in after a little while, because I tasted it, was just a little bit more, sorry for the screaming kid, salt and pepper. And I added 1 more bouillon cube and then a little bit more garlic. So I felt like it just needed a little bit more flavor. So, but other than that, it tastes really good. And I just touched the pot and it's really hot. So yeah. Once we're all ready to eat and get it all dished up, I'll show you what it looks like.